Hey everyone, it's Justine. Welcome back to the 12 Days of Christmas, where we are using one stamp bundle throughout all 12 days so that we're focusing on a whole bunch of different techniques. We're using one supply bundle rather for all of the cards. Today we are going to be looking at clean, easy to do backgrounds that require very few supplies. And we're also going to be looking at our layering stencils, also getting more out of those layering stencils. So not just stenciling or layering one on top of the other with ink blending, but actually what can you do to level them up? So let's get started. All right, so I'm going to start off by stamping all of these ornaments, a bunch of them on a full sheet of paper. Now, the reason why I stamped them all on one sheet was because I was planning on cutting these with my brother's Scan and Cut, since in the last video we realized that the coordinating dies don't actually line up all that well. You always end up losing an ornament or two because it's off center. So I was going to cut them with my brother's Scan and Cut, but I couldn't find my mat since I reorganized everything. I'm not even sure if I still have one. So I ended up fussy cutting all of these babies. Now I stamped 2 of these ornaments in black and I stamped 2 in embossing ink. I covered them with gold embossing powder, and that is my first way of adding a gold accent to my ornaments. Now we're going to be looking at as well how to add more gold into your ornaments by taking our layering stencils up a notch. So I decided to keep things all with the same color palette in this video, and I'm using some purples, which isn't the most traditional Christmas color, but I feel like it fits. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my first 2 layers of stenciling on pretty much all of them without really changing up much. So I'm using a lighter color and then a medium shade of purple. The, I guess, excitement with this is now taking it up an extra layer. So I'm going to add gold to all of these ornaments in different ways. So I'm going to use 3 different tactics here. So the first one, I am going to add some Glacier paste. This is one of the very few pastes that I keep on hand in my craft room. One, because pastes a lot of the times, if you don't use them up right away, just end up drying out. But my Glacier paste seemed to have lasted me quite a few years. And what I'm doing is I'm taking the 3rd layer and the last layer of this stencil, and I'm just making sure the Glacier paste gets in there and adding some gold accents to the already purple ornaments. This will probably take about 20 minutes to a half an hour to dry, so I'm going to set it off to the side. Another way to add gold to your ornaments to make them stand out a little bit more is using something called transfer gel. Now there's 2 types of transfer gel. If you already have one in your stash, you may want to look, is it a 2-in-1 transfer gel or transfer gels duos 2, I believe they're called, the one that doesn't require heat, or is it the original one where it does require heat? So I just wanted to let you know, if you don't have a laminator, that is totally okay. With the new formula of transfer duos, you can actually do this without any sort of heat. So what I do is spread over this paste. It is a white paste over top of the ornaments. I'm using the same stencil as before, but this time I'm going to let it sit to dry, and it's going to dry clear. So once it's all clear, it's going to dry quite tacky. And at that point, I'm just going to add some foil over top and run it through my laminator. Now, because this is quite tacky, if you're using the Transfer Duos, the newer model that doesn't require heat, it will say that right on the bottle. Then all you need to do is add your foil on top and take it off, and the foil will attach to the gel. For this case though, I gotta wait for it to dry because I'm using the old formula, and then I'm running it through my laminator. So now we have all of our beautiful ornaments made, and they are absolutely stunning. And I have a whole pile that I know I'm gonna have left over for future cards. So as I'm editing back the video, I just wanted to also add in that you can add more depth and interesting things, for example, to a stamped image with layering stencils, or through an embossed image with layering stencils, by grabbing some small blending brushes and just inking up a sort of shadow, a little bit of a darker ink going into the cardstock. This could add a lot of depth, a lot of dimension to the card, and it just really levels up your layering stamps and makes them really fantastic. Okay, so we've made several types of ornaments using gold. We've made the embossed look with added detail with the blending. We have also created our Glacier paste where we added that on our last layer of the stencil. And then lastly, we've also added transfer gel in the last layer of the stencil, sent it through a laminator, and foiled it. Once again, you are able to do that without a laminator. So let's dive into these quick and easy backgrounds I was talking about. So one of my favorite things to do when creating cards is to create an ink blended background, but instead of ink blending the whole thing, Grabbing yourself a little bit of removable adhesive, mint tape, purple tape, whatever you want to call it, is going to really make your cards stand out because you're going to get this really big pop of color on this white cardstock. It's one of my favorite things to do, and it only requires a couple of supplies. So even though we were quite supply heavy in creating our ornaments, just know you could have easily just stamped the ornaments and colored them as is. You could have stamped and embossed and used the layering stencils. That is not kind of aside from the point as far as the design of this card goes. Now, I love the big reveal when you take off the mint tape and you get to see the final look. I'm not quite happy with it yet. I want to show you how you could take things up even more. And that is using those tiny stamps that we never think of using in the stamp sets. Again, couldn't find my acrylic block because I'm just moving into this thing. And so I grabbed the lid of my embossing powder and I went stamping away. So I stamped a whole bunch of stars all over the background, kind of randomly. I'm going to cover them with some gold embossing powder and just give myself an extra little shine to the card. Now, since I have all of those ornaments already finished, all I need to do is arrange them on my card and add them. Your choice whether you want to add dimension or not with foam tape, or whether you want to just glue them straight onto the cardstock. I'm going to stamp some Deck the Halls in the bottom right-hand corner, and this card is already done. Quick and easy. As I said, regardless of how you do the ornaments, you can't deny that these backgrounds and the stamping involved is so easy and can be done in minutes with very few supplies. Now for my second background here, I'm actually going to create multiple stripes. So this way I'm going to do the exact same thing as I did before. Add myself a nice little strip, and the nice thing is those stripes that you're using on your card, you can make them thick, thin, whatever you like, and just get a really great variety. And adding multiples to the card actually gives it even more of a cool focal point in the center. Now again, I just wanted to add something that was going to make those colors pop even further, and what will do that really well is black ink. So I grabbed those stars that I embossed earlier, inked them up with some black ink, and covered the background in them as best as I can. I mean, with an acrylic block, I probably could have been a little bit more accurate because I could see through and see what I'm doing versus an embossing powder lid. But hey, you gotta make do sometimes. And then I just went ahead and added the ornaments on top. And don't be afraid to add a few little hand-drawn accents. I don't have anything, and these ornaments look like they're floating in the middle of nowhere because there's no strings attached to them. So I decided to just add some strings to them just with a black marker, and it's really easy to do. You can give it a little whimsical look like myself by adding a few twists and turns, or you can use a ruler and just go straight up and down. All right, for my last card here, I'm going to create two stripes as well, but let's try things in a different direction. So I added one large purple focal point in the bottom. I then went ahead and added a second line here on an angle, and just to give it something a little bit extra. Because I ended up covering it with a bit of collage of ornaments, it doesn't really matter if you do this step or not. This time, playing with dimension, I'm going to add some ornaments using some foam or some glue straight onto the cardstock and kind of mix and match them. I'm just going to go up in a straight line here, and you can add as many or as few as you like. I think in the end, I probably would have put a little bit less if I were to make these cards again, but overall, I think the card still turns out super pretty. I did feel like the ornaments were a bit much, so by adding on top a white sentiment stamped in black that was a little bit thicker going across the entire cardstock, I feel like that tended to tame down the ornaments a little bit, and I'm pretty happy about that. So here you are, 3 absolutely gorgeous cards using quick and easy supplies, plus a little lesson on how you can up those layering stencils if you'd want to. Now, if you like those types of cards where it's few supplies and little time, I have some amazing 5-supply cards that use some of these ink techniques shown in this video, but even more actually. So let's meet over here and I'll show you how those work. See you over there.